what are the pros and cons of different backend offer types? And I think this is a super important conversation because the structure you choose for your main offer is one of the most impactful decisions for your entire business. Because just off of the top of my head, it impacts three massive areas of your business. Number one, what your sales process has to look like. So if your main offer is a $20 a month membership, your sales process of getting people into that membership is going to look super different than if your main offer is a $25,000 group coaching program or mastermind or service, right? So that's huge. Second thing it impacts is the math of your business. Most obviously, how many clients or students or members you need for your business to function, for you to pay yourself what you want to pay yourself, invest in the business things you want to invest in, etc. If you have, again, a $20 a month membership, you are going to need way more people in your audience and in your offer than if you have a $5,000 VIP day. So that's a huge aspect of your business. Now, the third thing is it's going to impact what you spend most of your time doing, because probably the majority of your business time is going to be spent selling and delivering your main offer, whatever it looks like. And so you want to make sure that it's both the sales process and the delivery process are filled up with mostly things that you enjoy doing, that it fits your idea of what freedom looks like, that it lets you work the days and the times that you want to work, doing the things that you mostly want to do. So it's a huge decision. Let's get into a high-level overview. I will give a little disclaimer. In some ways, this is a big conversation. There's no way that I can cover all of the pros and cons and the different aspects of every type of offer. So I'm going to do the best I can in a few minutes. And the second disclaimer is, you get to make the rules. So I'm going to go over some common structures and common price points, but there are so many creative ways to deliver your expertise to your clients. So this is by no means an exhaustive list, and you can make any offer type look like whatever you want it to look like. I'm just going to go over some common ones, okay? Let's start with a membership. So when I say membership, I'm thinking a fairly low ticket. So let's say somewhere between $5 a month and $200 a month. A fairly low ticket subscription offer. So something that people are billed for automatically, where the goal is to get people to stay for a long time. Your goal is that people would come into this community, or this, I guess not all memberships have a community, but they would come into this membership, this subscription offer, and, say, oh my gosh, I love it. I love the resources, or I love the access, or I love the community, whatever the deliverables are. I want to stay for a long time. So pros of a membership, the really obvious one is recurring revenue. That's kind of the dream that everyone sells who teaches memberships. It's like, oh, don't start every month at zero. You can hum along. If you get to 100 or 200 or 500 or 1,000 members, you just have this money coming in every month. So that's a big pro. There's also stability involved with that. If you get sick next month and can't do a launch to get more members in, well, that's okay, because you still have the stability of, yes, you might lose a few members who cancel, but you still have a group of members that their monthly billing is going to hit and you still get paid. Memberships are also typically scalable. So typically there's not a ton of support involved in a membership. You might do, a monthly Q&A call or hot seat coaching, but you're typically not promising or delivering really high touch support to every single member, which means most memberships are built in a way that they can have hundreds or thousands of members. And that's pretty cool. There's also, in some ways, I think memberships are low pressure delivery in the sense that they are fairly low ticket. So you're not, promising to save someone's entire business. You're giving them a few social media templates every month. You're not promising to fix their entire marriage. You're giving them a date night idea once a week. So typically the pressure involved with delivery for a membership is a little bit lower because it's a low ticket sort of thing, and you're not working with one-on-one clients who've paid you thousands of dollars. Now, that does not mean that delivery can't get a little bit heavy. There's still content to create or possibly live calls to show up for, or resources to create that, depending on what you enjoy doing, might feel like a lot of work. Final pro for a membership, at least it's a pro for a lot of people, is the sales process. You can typically sell this just with a sales page. You don't need to do sales calls or really labor-intensive sales process where you're talking to individual people and, convincing them to join the membership. Your sales process can be a bit hands-off. Now, let's get into the cons, because the first con is memberships are actually a little bit tricky to sell, in that people are really hesitant to sign up for recurring offers. Even if your offer is only $7 a month or $20 a month or $30 a month, people are forecasting in their heads, like, oh, if I'm going to have to cancel this, that might be awkward. What if I forget to cancel? They start to do multiplication. Well, 20 times 12, if I stay all year, equals this. And so there's some reluctance. No one wants to add another subscription billing. We all have Netflix. We all have gazillion other subscription services. And so there's some resistance to selling. Also, churn can become a full-time job. So there's this idea of, you don't need to spend that much time selling because you have recurring revenue. Well, you only have recurring revenue if members stay. And even if your retention rate is really high, like 85, 90, 95% per month, you'd be surprised how fast those numbers dwindle, and you may still find yourself needing to do a launch every other month or every 3 months in order just to offset your membership churn, let alone to actually grow and add members. Typically, for a membership, you need a bigger audience than you would think because of those things. So it's not a great business model. If you're just getting started and have a small audience, there are better back-end offer types than a low-ticket or mid-ticket membership. You can also end up, there's a few kind of subtler cons, stuff like you can kind of feel like you're on a content treadmill, like, I need new things every month to keep members happy. I need to keep creating new templates or new trainings, new recordings, new fun bonuses. And so it can start to feel like you're in creation mode. Another thing is, it's tricky to create a compelling membership offer for certain topics. There's some topics where a membership really makes sense because there's a cyclical nature to it. So like a gym membership makes sense because you want to keep going to the gym every single month. Even like an online workout membership makes sense because you maybe want new workouts to do every week or every month. An email template membership makes sense because you want new emails ideas to send every month. But there's other topics where they're more of a one-time thing, or they're more of a linear journey, and asking people to commit to a year of a membership when they really just want to get one simple project done or solve one problem and then be done, it makes the messaging for a membership tricky. And people have this idea of like, well, why do I need to sign up for this subscription? They would rather buy a course, or rather just book a one-time consulting call with you, or rather go through a 4-week group coaching program. And the other thing is memberships. There's this idea of long-term thinking is baked in, because from the very beginning, people are thinking like, how long am I going to stay? Okay, I'm going to get rebilled next month. And most people buy things. It's easier to sell. Let me frame it differently. It's easier to sell things that have more short-term promises. The idea of like, get this done in a week, get this done in a month, get this thing set up, and then it's set it and forget it. That all of that type of messaging is easier to set up than an idea of like long-term practice, long-term cycles, long-term mastery. Okay, so that's a membership. Next, a group coaching program. I'm going to distinguish here between group coaching program, a one-time purchase that's a set payment for a set length of time, and group coaching recurring, which is paying, kind of like paying $500 a month to get coaching. So first, we're going to talk about a group coaching program, which might be an 8-week program or a 12-week program or a 6-month program, whatever the length You might decide it's typically fairly high ticket, like at least, $2,000, but could go up to $10, $12, $15,000 depending on your niche and your sales process. It helps people with a big, high-value problem. And typically it's a mix of content and support. So there's probably some training, but there's also some support, whether it's one-on-one or group support included with a coaching program like this. So the pros are you can make a great living from a small audience. You don't need thousands and thousands of people to launch and fill a group coaching program. You also don't need a huge number of clients. Those kind of go hand in hand. But to hit your monthly income number, you probably don't need 200 members. You might need 5 clients. Another pro is, in the spectrum of things, I find them fairly easy to sell, especially if you're willing to have a bit more of a hands-on process. I think group coaching programs are actually quite simple and straightforward to sell, especially if you're willing to send a couple DMs back and forth, send some voice messages, host a Zoom open house, I guess, like on Zoom, where people can ask you questions. Or the easiest method is literally just to take some simple sales calls and let people who are interested in the coaching program have a quick chat with you and see if it works for them. If you're willing to do this, I find group coaching programs are actually fairly simple to sell. Another pro is you don't need tons of infrastructure. Because there's typically a decent level of support and access where people are getting to ask you questions or work with you every week, it means that you don't need to have a massive built-out suite of templates or trainings or resources. Having some level of structure is good and will help people get better results and take some of the pressure off your plate, but you don't need to spend months building a group coaching program. You can actually get it off the ground in a fairly lightweight way. Cons, number one, it's a more hands-on sales process. So if you want to be successful, I'm not saying you can't sell a group coaching program with just a workshop or just a sales page, a simple upgrade process. It can be done, but that does take more skill, more nuance, typically more testing. So one of the cons is you may have to add more calls to your calendar. There's also higher pressure from a delivery standpoint. You're giving people more access to you. You're probably having more calls in your calendar, like weekly coaching or Q&A sessions. And there can be a sense of pressure of like, oh, people paid me $7,500. I really want them to get an amazing result. And then finally, if you offer payment plans for group coaching programs, one of the cons is you're typically going to see a fairly high percentage of people drop off of those. There's certainly processes you can have in place. And if your group coaching program is really getting results and you're letting the right people in, you can minimize that, but it is something to be aware of. If you sell a 3-month coaching program for $6,000 or $2,000 a month, when someone pays you that first payment, you can't assume that 100% of those people are going to also pay the second payment and the third payment. Okay, so that's a group coaching program. A group coaching recurring offer. So this is what Together looks like, where people, pay us every month. And in return, we help them build a freedom-based business using workshops and simple upgrades. And we promote their workshops and we review their workshop funnels and sales pages. And we have ongoing calls. And this is, a set amount of money per month, and it's recurring. So it isn't just a set length of time. It isn't like this is a 6-month program. No, someone could stay in for 9 months or 12 months or 14 months if they want to, and they'll just keep getting charged on a recurring basis. So yeah, in general, I would say group coaching is high mid-ticket to high ticket, typically helping people with a high value ongoing process. And there's also typically a mix of content and support, but mostly support. In a group coaching recurring type of offer, it's mostly going to be people getting access to you, people getting feedback from you, people getting coaching from you, etc. Pros of this, again, really similar stuff to the group coaching program, so I won't go into depth. Small audience, not too much infrastructure, and then you have the added stability of recurring revenue. So it can be a really stable way to build your business where you are like, okay, next month I have 10 clients who are going to be paying me $500 each, as long as everyone stays. Cons of group coaching recurring. Again, similar to group coaching program, there's a level of access and pressure that comes with people investing and having personal support. There's probably going to be, calls on your calendar more so than there would be with a membership or a course that we'll talk about in a second. And group coaching recurring is a little bit harder to sell than a group coaching program. Because again, there's a bit less of a defined promise of like, we'll get you to this point within this amount of time. It's a little bit vaguer because you're giving ongoing support out into the unknown future. So you have to really nail your messaging and nail your promise and have a solid sales process in place so that people get excited about joining, for the long haul. A lot of people do hybridize this where they'll have a group coaching program that's like 8 weeks, and then you can stay in and continue getting access for X amount of dollars per month. Okay, next type of offer we'll talk about is a course. A course is, I'm going to say, a $300 to $1,000 info product with zero or minimal access or support. So it's mostly recorded trainings, recorded content, access to templates or a vault of resources that people can go through at their own pace. It's a very DIY sort of thing. There might be a Facebook community or a school community or maybe a once a month call, but it's mostly a DIY type of model. Pros are it's very hands-off once you create it. Very scalable once you create it. You can have thousands of people buy a course and it doesn't really add anything to your workload or add any calls to your calendar. It's also easy to sell from a sales process perspective. You don't need sales calls. You don't need anything really complicated. Also, it's easy to understand. Like people understand what a course is. And so those are some great things. Cons are you have a capped lifetime value. So if this is your main offer, assuming that you're not doing a course and a membership and a coaching program, you're just doing a course as your main back-end offer, it means the most that someone can ever spend on your business is $1,000 if it's a $1,000 course. And that means that you're going to need more clients and a bigger audience in the long run because you're not going to have anyone in your audience who's paying you over the course of months or years more by investing in, a $10,000 coaching program or 18 months of being in a membership or 18 months of being in a recurring group coaching offer. And so in the long run, you're going to need a bigger audience and more clients/students in order to get this business model to work. And you're going to need, new people coming into your world all the time in order to make that happen. It also, I think it's a little bit harder in the current market. I hate to make blanket statements like that, but I do think a lot of people are looking for lower ticket info products. So like a recorded workshop or an instant access template or an AI tool, or they're looking to invest in actual support. That higher ticket investment of like $300 to $1,000, I would say mid-ticket investment into something that's totally DIY can be a bit of a harder sell these days. Certainly doable. Like if you have a really solid promise and a really great testimonials and everything, you can totally make it work. Like we make sales of Ticket to Freedom on a regular basis. But it is something to keep in mind that, people are a little hesitant on the DIY stuff these days. Okay. 2 more types of back-end offers. First one is an intensive. This is a bit of an umbrella term here. For the sake of time, I'm lumping quite a few things under the umbrella of intensive. So an intensive is going to be a one-time payment that solves a really clear, specific, high-value problem. It's going to be mid-ish ticket, and the price point is going to depend on if it's a group thing or a one-on-one thing. So it could be like a VIP day or even like a one-off consulting call where it's like, hey, I'm going to help you get this thing done in an hour or get this thing done in a day, or I'm going to do this thing for you in a day. Or it could be a group thing, like a 4-week, live intensive, a 4-week live course kind of cohort thing. So if it's a group thing, lower access, maybe a niche that's more in the lifestyle space, you might see this, between $200 to $500, maybe up to $2K at the very high end. If it's a one-on-one thing, you might be in the couple $100 range for like a one-on-one consulting call, or for a VIP day, you might be, $2,000 to $7,500, let's say. So price point can vary, but the idea is specific, laser-focused promise, something people are really excited to get done and solve and do it fast. And it's a short time frame from literally a 1-hour call with you to maybe like a four-week sprint with a group. The pros of this are easy to sell because it's super specific. Super specific stuff is always easy to sell. You can do it with a small audience, especially if you're figure out a way to do a higher price point thing, and you don't need a lot of infrastructure at all. This is something that you could literally just show up on the call or show up to the VIP day or teach the live sprint live. Just show up and teach each week or each day. You don't need a ton of materials, a ton of pre-created resources, a ton of pre-recorded content necessarily. The cons are you're going to be having a shorter launch cycle. You're going to have to be launching a new intensive or doing the intensive over and over again, every month or every couple months. Every couple months, open up 10 VIP day spots. Every month, open up 10 consulting calls. Every month, open up a new 4-week intensive. So there's a bit more of a launch cycle going on. And depending on how you do it, again, you may run into the lower LTV thing. If you're like, well, I just want to do the same intensive over and over again, it's a 4-week, live group sprint, and it's $300. Okay, awesome. But it's only $300. That means you've maxed out the value of any single person in your audience at $300. There's no more money that they can give you. So that means you're going to be needing to do more audience building and build up a bigger audience. Okay. Last but not least, services. Now, services, there's plenty of different ways to structure them. I could spend an hour just talking about services, but for the sake of this, we're going to say it's high ticket, one-on-one, done-for-you services. Again, you could structure this as a project fee, like pay $10,000 to build someone's website. You could structure this as a retainer, pay $2,500 to write 10 emails a month. So there's some wiggle room here, but base level pros and cons. Pro, easy to sell because there's inherent obvious value in a service. It's like, oh, I don't have to do this thing. You will literally do it for me. That's valuable. Another pro is you can do this with a small audience and you don't need a huge number of clients. Another pro is you can have a flexible sales process. You can have a very high labor sales process, which would be a bit of a con, where you do sales calls, where you bid on projects, where you have a long sales cycle. But I've found that if you're really specific about what you do for people, the result you'll create, what the process looks like, and if you create a good page for it and become known for this one specific solution, it's actually very doable to sell a service with, just a sales page or an application page or something like that. Another pro is you typically don't have to do a lot of calls for delivery. So from a delivery standpoint, you're usually just doing the work by yourself. Maybe you're checking in with a client every couple weeks or once a month if it's a retainer, but you can have a pretty open calendar, and that's nice from a freedom perspective. And it's pretty flexible when it comes to like your work schedule and everything, especially if you get your boundaries in place. Cons are it doesn't work for every niche. Like if you're in the fitness niche, you can't work out for someone. If you are in the relationship niche, you can't have hard conversations with a partner for someone. So there are some limitations, and services are most obviously workable in B2B niches. Another con is it can be one of the areas where you lose freedom because it's hard to maintain boundaries, or you find yourself doing a lot of free labor in the sales process. So it can be a bit of a skill and a process to figure out, okay, how can I keep my services from taking over my life, especially if you're prone to be an over-deliverable. an over deliverer. And then the other con is you're always you're capped on what you can create because it is all based on your ability to write copy or build a website or run ads. There is a cap to some degree on what you can earn. You can, of course, raise your prices. You can, of course, get creative with stuff like profit splits on certain types of services, but you are limited in a way that you're not with, a membership or a course where you can hypothetically have 5,000 or 10,000 members. You can't just take on unlimited number of service projects. Even if you have people begging to pay you money, there's a limit on what you can actually do. However, I will say that for many people, a service model is actually the best way to get to their income goal. Because if you're not looking to, build a massive empire, a service-based business is one of the easiest and simplest ways to get to 20, 30, 40K a month without needing team members and without needing a huge audience. Okay, that was quite the rundown. I know this was jam-packed. I hope this helps all of you think through the pros and cons of different backend offer models and be strategic about choosing the right type of core backend offer that fits your personality, the size of your audience, your niche, and the type of work and the type of delivery and the type of selling that you enjoy doing. It is always a work in progress, but it is, a game changer when you find a back-end offer model that's really aligned with your lifestyle, your income goals, and the season of business that you're in. So cheers to you finding and choosing the right back-end offer type and moving forward with it.